I never thought my work as an investigative journalist would bring me this close to real danger. My job was to expose cybercriminals, but this case was different. It wasn't just hacking or fraud, it was life and death. The dark web was notorious for its hidden markets and illegal trades, but what I found sent a chill down my spine. I had spent weeks digging through encrypted forums, looking for something big, something worth exposing. Late one night, buried deep within an anonymous thread, I found it, a website claiming to offer contract killings. The design was simple, almost too ordinary, but the words on the homepage made my stomach turn. Guaranteed removals, no questions asked, pay in Bitcoin. I clicked through the listings. Each entry was horrifying. Targets' names, locations, descriptions of their routines. Some even had pictures. It looked too real. I checked the testimonials, searching for proof that it was just another dark web scam, but the reviews were disturbingly detailed. One user wrote, "Took a little longer than expected, but the job was done, worth every coin." Another said, "No loose ends, professional service, will use again." I felt sick. If this was real, people were being hunted down like prey. But something didn't add up. The more I searched, the more inconsistencies I found. The same usernames kept appearing, leaving similar reviews on different pages. Some payment confirmations didn't match. It started to look like the entire operation was a hoax, designed to trick desperate, violent people into paying for a service that didn't exist. But that didn't make it any less dangerous. The people willing to pay for murder wouldn't just give up once they realized they had been scammed. They would still want their targets gone. I knew I had to act fast before someone took matters into their own hands. I compiled everything I had, screenshots, user logs, transaction records. I needed more proof, something undeniable. My instincts told me I was about to uncover something much bigger. Then my phone buzzed. A new email. No subject line, no sender, just 4 words. "Stop looking, stop now." My blood ran cold. I stared at the email, my mind racing. It wasn't just a random warning. It was a direct threat. Someone knew I was digging. My heart pounded as I reread the message, half expecting another one to follow. I wasn't sure if it was a scare tactic or something worse. I took a deep breath and forced myself to think. I had uncovered enough to prove that the site was a scam, but I wasn't done. The real danger wasn't just the fake assassins. It was the people placing the orders. If they found out they had been tricked, they might take matters into their own hands. That was what scared me the most. I needed more information. I reached out to a cybersecurity expert I trusted, someone who had helped me before. He went by the alias Cypher, a former hacker who had since turned to exposing online crime. We met in a small cafe, sitting near the back where no one could overhear us. "I looked into the site," Cypher said, stirring his coffee absent-mindedly. "It's been around for a while, but it's not what it seems." "I figured as much," I replied. "But that doesn't mean it's harmless." Cypher nodded. "Exactly. The people using it are serious. Some of them have already gone off the deep end. I found a few conversations on private forums. People realizing they'd been scammed and trying to find alternative ways to get the job done. That was worse than I had imagined. If even one of these people decided to act on their rage, it could cost someone their life." "Can we trace the payments?" I asked. "Find out who's behind this?" Cypher sighed. "Bitcoin is hard to track, but I managed to link a few transactions to a laundering network. It's international. Someone big is behind it." Before I could respond, my phone vibrated again. Another email. This time it wasn't a warning, it was a list. 5 names, 5 addresses, and at the bottom a chilling message, "Processing soon." My stomach turned. These weren't just scam victims anymore. These were real people, and someone was still trying to have them killed. I had to stop this before it was too late. I bolted out of the cafe, my pulse hammering. I had 5 names. 5 people who had no idea their lives were in danger. This wasn't just an investigation anymore. This was a race against time. Cypher followed close behind. "What's the plan?" he asked. his voice low but urgent. I didn't have one, not yet, but I knew what had to be done. "We warned them," I said, "every single one of them, now." We split the list. I took the first 3 names. Cypher took the other 2. I dialed the first number, disconnected. My stomach twisted. I tried the second. A woman picked up. "Hello?" she answered. I kept my voice calm. "Ma'am, I need you to listen carefully. My name is Carl Miller. I'm a journalist. Your name is on a list, a hit list. Someone tried to put a contract on your life. I don't know if it's real, but you need to take precautions. Call the police, leave your house. Right now." Silence. Then she laughed, short and nervous. "This is some kind of joke, right?" "It's not," I said firmly. "I wouldn't call if I wasn't sure. Please, just go somewhere safe." She hesitated. "All right, I'll call the cops." I exhaled, hoping she actually would. Cypher sent me a message. One of mine already left town. The other, no answer. That left my last name on the list, Eric Landon. I called, but it went straight to voicemail. I checked the address Cypher had pulled. He lived just a few blocks away. Without thinking, I ran. By the time I reached his apartment, my worst fear was unfolding in front of me. The door was slightly open, no lights inside. I pushed my way in, phone, flashlight, cutting through the dark. The place was trashed, papers scattered, furniture overturned. No sign of Landon. Then I saw it, his laptop still open on the desk. A message was displayed on the screen. "Contract completed." My blood went ice cold. I staggered back, the reality of what I had uncovered crashing down on me. The website may have started as a scam, but someone had turned it real. Whether it was a former client, a rogue administrator, or something else entirely, it no longer mattered. People were dying. The police would get involved, but I knew they would never find everyone responsible. The dark web was a maze of shadows, and even when one monster was exposed, another took its place. I had warned the others in time, but for Eric Landon, it was too late. I left his apartment, knowing I would never stop looking over my shoulder. I had uncovered the truth, but the truth had already seen me. I've spent years investigating the darkest corners of the internet, but nothing prepared me for what I found buried deep in the dark web. Hidden behind encrypted logins and private forums was a name whispered among the most depraved circles. Zimble. The username appeared frequently in discussion threads, always tied to the most disturbing content imaginable. But what truly made my stomach turn was the rumor that Zimble wasn't just a viewer. He was a creator. I had seen these kinds of criminals before, lurking in the shadows, thinking they were untouchable. But Zimble was different. He was careful. He had rules. His posts were methodical, his wording clinical, as if he were cataloging evidence rather than committing unspeakable crimes. Unlike other predators who thrived on chaos, he thrived on control. Then, one night, I got a break. A leak from a closed forum surfaced. Thousands of encrypted files, posted carelessly by a user who had apparently been kicked from the group. Most of it was indecipherable, but one folder caught my eye. It was labeled The Educator's Collection. My stomach tightened. I clicked it open. Inside were hundreds of documents, neatly organized by location, date, and, most disturbingly, victims' names. Some files had attachments, videos too heavily encrypted for me to open, but the metadata was enough. The files had been uploaded from Australia and Italy, spanning over a decade. I knew then that I wasn't looking at an anonymous figure hiding behind a screen. Zimble wasn't just a ghost in the system. He was real. And if the locations and timestamps were accurate, he was still active. I closed my laptop, heart pounding. I needed to act fast, but before I could reach out to my contacts in law enforcement, my screen flickered. A new message appeared in the chat window from an untraceable sender. "You shouldn't have opened that folder." My hands turned ice cold. My heart pounded as I stared at the message. Someone was watching, someone new, My hands hovered over the keyboard, but I didn't dare respond. Instead, I shut my laptop, my mind racing. Had I triggered something? Had they traced me? I needed to move fast. I grabbed my phone and called my contact in cybercrime enforcement, an Australian investigator named Mark Henshaw. We had worked together before on dark web cases, but this one was different. This wasn't just a ring of predators swapping files. This was a carefully curated operation led by someone who had direct access to children. When Mark answered, I skipped the small talk. I found something, a user named Zimble. He's been documenting his crimes for years. I have files linking him to locations in Australia and Italy. There was silence on the other end, then a sharp exhale. We've been looking for him, Mark said, but he's a ghost. No one's been able to put a real name to him. I swallowed hard. I think I can. I spent the next hour forwarding everything I had, metadata, timestamps, archived forum posts. Every breadcrumb I had found led back to one person, a man named Ashley Paul Griffith. He wasn't some anonymous hacker hiding behind layers of encryption. He was a child care worker. The realization made me sick. He had access, trusted by parents, a mentor to children, and all the while he had been building his own sick collection, documenting his crimes like a twisted scientist keeping lab notes. Mark was silent as he processed the information. Then, in a low voice, he said, "We need to move now. If he's watching you, he knows his time is running out." I nodded, gripping my phone tighter. "I just got a message. Someone knows I accessed the files." Mark's tone shifted. "Then you need to get somewhere safe. Now." Before I could answer, my laptop screen lit up again. Another message. "You don't know who you're dealing with." A second later, my phone buzzed. An unknown number was calling me. I didn't answer. I couldn't, because for the first time in my years of investigating monsters, I wasn't just chasing them, they were chasing me. I stared at the ringing phone, my breath shallow. I had two choices, answer or run. Every instinct in me screamed that this wasn't just a warning, this was a message, a challenge. I let the call go to voicemail. If they wanted to scare me, they had already succeeded, but I wasn't about to back down. I grabbed my laptop and forced myself to focus. Mark and his team were already moving, tracing Griffith's whereabouts, but I needed to stay ahead. I combed through the files again, looking for anything we had missed. And then I saw it. Buried in a set of encrypted logs was a timestamp from just hours ago. Griffith had accessed the dark web forum this morning. He wasn't hiding, he was still active. I sent the details to Mark. Within minutes, I got a response. "We have an address. He's at work, moving in now." I exhaled, tension still coiled in my chest. Griffith was at a child care center. My stomach twisted at the thought. How many more lives had he ruined? How many had he planned to? Then, another message popped up in the forum thread. A final taunt from Griffith's account. Too late. Before I could even react, Mark called me. His voice was sharp, urgent. "We got him. He tried to run, but we have him in custody." Relief washed over me, but it was fleeting. Catching one man didn't erase the horrors he had created. His victims would live with those scars forever. And the dark web? It would keep thriving, breeding more monsters like him. I glanced back at my screen. The forum where Griffith had spent years operating was already wiped clean. Another predator would take his place. I closed my laptop, knowing my work wasn't done. The dark web wasn't just a place, it was a machine, and no matter how many pieces we destroyed, it would keep running. But as long as it did, I would keep hunting. I had always struggled with my weight. No matter what I tried, fad diets, intense workouts, even fasting, nothing seemed to work. I was desperate. And when desperation takes over, logic fades. It started with a late-night rabbit hole, scrolling through weight loss forums where people shared their wildest methods. That's when I saw it, a single post tucked between discussions of fasting and extreme calorie restriction, the secret diet no one talks about. Curious, I clicked. The post was filled with praise. I lost 30 pounds in a month, best decision I ever made. The method? a simple pill ordered from the dark web. The poster claimed it was all natural and had been used since the Victorian era. But there was something they weren't saying. The way they danced around the details made my skin crawl. Still, my curiosity overpowered my hesitation. I followed the link, navigating through an encrypted marketplace. The product description was vague: organic weight loss capsules, powerful and effective. No branding, no ingredients list, just a single warning: not responsible for misuse. I hesitated. This was insane, dangerous, but I was tired of hating my reflection. I placed the order. A week later, a small, unmarked package arrived at my doorstep. I held it in my hands, heart pounding. Inside, a tiny glass vial contained several off-white capsules, their powdery contents shifting as I tilted them. A single thought ran through my mind. What the hell had I just done? I shook off the doubt. The people on the forum had sworn by it. They had lost weight. So, I swallowed one. At first, nothing happened. No sudden sickness, no dramatic change. Just the same old me, staring into the mirror, waiting for something to feel different. Days passed, and the scale started to move. 1 pound, 3, 5. My clothes felt looser. It was working. Then, the hunger started. No matter how much I ate, I was never full. I would finish a full plate of food and still feel that gnawing emptiness, like something inside me was consuming it faster than I could digest. I woke up at night, stomach cramping so intensely that I doubled over in bed. I chalked it up to my body adjusting. Then came the movement. It started as a weird sensation in my gut, like tiny tremors under my skin. I ignored it at first, maybe just digestion. But by the second week, I knew something was wrong. One night, I woke up gasping, a twisting, writhing sensation curling deep inside me. I ran to the bathroom, hands gripping the counter as I fought the nausea. My stomach churned violently, sweat pouring down my back. Then I saw it. A thin, pale strand wriggling in the back of my throat. I gagged, choking, clawing at my tongue, but the thing slithered back down. I collapsed onto the floor, my hands shaking. My brain refused to process what had just happened. This wasn't real. It couldn't be. But the weight kept dropping. More than 20 pounds now. My skin stretched unnaturally tight over my bones, my cheeks hollow. And I knew deep down that it wasn't me losing weight. It was feeding. Desperate, I returned to the dark web forum. My fingers trembled as I typed, "How do I stop this?" No one responded. But then, after an hour of waiting, a single message appeared from an anonymous user. Too late. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt it shifting, curling, moving inside me. My body wasn't my own anymore. It belonged to whatever was growing, feeding, thriving beneath my skin. By morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I staggered to the emergency room, drenched in sweat, my clothes hanging off my frame like they belonged to someone else. My voice was barely a whisper as I pleaded with the nurse. Something's inside me. They ran tests, their expressions growing darker with each result. Malnourishment, internal bleeding, severe infestation. One doctor pulled me aside, his face grim. "How long have you had these symptoms?" I didn't answer. I didn't know how. They prepped me for surgery immediately. As they injected the anesthesia, the last thing I felt was a sickening movement deep in my gut, like it knew what was coming. I woke up hours later, my body heavy, my throat raw. A nurse stood by my bedside, her face pale. "We need to talk about what we found." She hesitated before pulling back the curtain. Behind her, in a sealed container, it lay coiled, a monstrous, pale, writhing mass, longer than I ever could have imagined. A tapeworm. A living, growing parasite. It had been inside me for weeks, burrowing deeper, stealing my body from the inside out. The doctor said they removed most of it, but warned there could still be fragments left behind. Eggs, larvae. I thought I was free, but now, every night, I feel something move.